Hello everyone, it's Andrew from GemTCG, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to sell your dead inventory. And what I mean by that is basically inventory that's just been sitting for a while, or maybe you've gotten a little lazy and left it to the side, which is something I often do with some inventory that I don't think will sell and I don't see the value in listing it. And it just piles up. People call it like the death pile or something. So obviously, the best thing to do is to limit that pile from growing too much because it's just a bad habit to have. And letting things pile up that aren't listed, it's just going to carry over and it's just going to make a bunch of clutter, take up a bunch of space. And without you knowing, it's going to lock up a decent amount of capital unless you get it for free or just an extremely low amount. But sometimes you'll get a bunch of inventory and it could start to pile up costs and the space. So the method that I'm going to be showing on how to get rid of that inventory and actually make a decent amount of money from it is running auctions on eBay. And it's not just some simple, you're going to take this one card and run it on an auction. You have to be pretty clever and creative with it for it to work and for you to get a decent amount of money from it. So I've made a video before on how to sell off your damaged and moderately played and below cards. And I've been doing this for the past 2 to 3 years now on eBay, and it's a great way to just get in some extra income from things that you didn't know had value. So first I'm going to show you guys how to find what to sell in these types of things, like what to sell in an auction. And then I'll show you guys how to actually run the auction and how to set it up in a way that will make a lot of money. So before we start, be aware that auctions, I would say 9 times out of 10, will sell for below what it's worth. So don't expect to get full market value or above market value on an auction, because the way that eBay bidding is, I could bid $10 and then someone else bids $15. But if the bid ends on that 15, it'll actually only sell for $11, which is, it's a very weird concept, but if you understand, that'll make sense to you. And it's also just that you only have 7 days to make the sale, depending on how long you make the auction. So you are being shown to a smaller audience. If you set a buy now price, obviously you could set your price and then people see it. If they want it, they'll buy it. If not, it'll just stay. But with an auction, once that auction ends, it's over. So just be aware of that. And then first thing is, what can you sell in these types of auctions to get some money back and sell some of your clutter? And I'll give some examples on what I do, which is the biggest one is just selling damaged and moderately played cards, because I don't like selling them on my store. I don't like dealing with dirty cards. I feel like very grossed out when I'm processing cards that have dirt on them, or I can tell they're just dusty or dirty. I don't like to deal with that. So I put them all to the side and I let it pile up over a month or two, depending on how often I get inventory in. And then I will just auction it off once I feel like there's a good enough amount for it to be attractive to the bidders on eBay. And I don't have an example right now because I actually ran the auction a few days ago. But basically, I put it in something like this, and it's around 500 cards, all Wizards of the Coast damaged cards. And I just let it run. Whatever it sells for, I'm happy with, because it's basically pure profit, since I'm not paying for damaged cards. If I buy something and my bulk rates are saying light plate to near mint only, and if they send me damaged cards, I'll say, hey, these are actually damaged. Can you please refund that? Because I don't pay for damaged cards. And they usually refund me. So then that sale is basically pure profit. So that's the best example. Honestly, it's almost foolproof and it sells really well. The next one is dealing with just inventory that you've had listed on eBay and it's not selling. So one major example I have is a bunch of PSA 8s and 9s. Now, I'm not a big PSA grader. I actually have stopped grading. I haven't graded in the past probably 2 years now. But I've had a bunch of PSA 8s and 9s from the Shiny Vault, like Hidden Fates, Shining Fates cards. And I've had them listed for 2 years now. Or maybe a year. I don't know. I may be exaggerating. And I've sold 1 or 2 of them. And I've talked about this in my vending video. I tried to get rid of them over there, and I sold a few. But basically, I have I'd like to say 30 or 40 graded cards. And I'm just going to run an auction on them just to recoup some money, because right now their value is $20, if that. And then with shipping and fees, I'll probably net $10 per slab. So I'd rather just run a 40 graded card auction. It sells for whatever amount I'm happy with, because it's simply not selling at $20. And if I go any lower, it's just not worth the time to package and ship them all, because I'm already at a negative. I already paid, I think it was like $15 or $18 per card to get graded. The card itself is worth $3. Shipping and whatever, I can't break even on that. So I'm just going to sell it all off, get some money back. And it takes up space, and I don't like dealing with them. And then the next thing you could do, which is, I think is very slept on and not paid attention to a lot, which are B-sleeves. So obviously the regular ones like this, actually I don't even know if these are regular or maybe Pokemon Center. I don't know if they changed it. Those sell for whatever amount. You're not going to make a huge amount, and to be honest, if you're like me and you don't really feel like doing it, making a listing for it, you could just use them, because you always need sleeves. So you might as well get some use out of it instead of just letting it pile up. But if you have them sealed, you can run a big auction and get some money back. And especially if you have stuff like this one, like the Venusaur one, or this one's pretty sick. I don't know, I think it's from Prismatic, but when I saw this, I was like, oh, this should be valuable. And I've done it before in the past when I used to buy ETB sleeves in bulk. And I would do enough that would fit in a flat rate padded envelope. And I think it was around 28 ETB sleeves, which would sell for around, I'd like to say $30 to $40. And then after shipping and fees, I'll probably net $20 or $25. And for something that people would basically throw in for free and sell to you for a really cheap amount, making $20 on a simple auction, it can add up. And especially if you're buying, let's say you're buying hundreds or thousands of them, and you can continue running auctions, it's a really good way to make some extra income. And it can definitely pile up. And especially if you're getting stuff like this one, where it's more popular, more sought after, it'll let that auction go up for a lot more. And another thing with the miscellaneous items is also the jumbo cards, which is another auction you could do. Now, me, personally, I don't have anything to ship jumbo cards safely in, and I don't feel like investing money and space into having a separate packaging method for jumbo cards. It's just, I don't think it's worth my time, because I'm so busy listing other cards and dealing with other sales. So what I do is I buy the jumbo cards in bulk, and I pay 5 to 10 cents per card. And then once I get enough to where it's 100 or 200 jumbo cards, I'll run an auction, and I'll just showcase all of them in a big lot, and then let it run for 7 days. It'll probably sell. The last one I did is sold for $125. And I would like to say it was probably around 80 or 100 jumbo cards. And if you do the math, I paid, let's just say 10 cents per jumbo, which is 100 of them times 10 cents, that's $10. And then I ran an auction on it, and it sold for over 100. So after shipping and fees, I probably netted $80 or $90 for something that most people would just throw away or not even think had value in it. And I know this video is about selling off dead inventory, but I also want to just give a little tip and let you guys know that there's a lot of ways to find value in the stuff you have. And not all the time it's just selling cards. I know that's 90% of the money you'd make, or maybe even more, like 95%. But being creative with the things you get is super important, and you can actually get a lot of money when you find ways to sell things in a creative way. Another side one, which is not something you have to do an auction for, but it's like selling a evolution set of a card instead of just selling all 3 cards as singles. And what I mean by that is Ghastly, Hunter, Gengar, or Hunter, and Gengar. If you put all 3 of those together, and you could list it for $5 and it'll sell, even if it's just commons and uncommons. And after shipping and fees, you'll probably net $4 from that. But if you were to sell it on a single card listing, you had them all separately for, let's just say, $2 each, the chances of someone going in and buying all three of them is a lot lower. But since you do the work for them, you put them all together in one listing, you will make a decent amount of sales. I've done it many times before, and I'll probably do a full video on this because it's a very important way to, or it's a very easy way to get a lot of money in from your bulk cards that otherwise would not sell as singles. And then the last thing I want to talk about, because honestly, I could probably keep making examples, but I just want you guys to think of what inventory you have and use these examples as a way to, I guess, inspire you to make your own listings and make your own auctions in a different way that will help you sell off dead inventory. So the last one I'm going to talk about is code cards. And there is a code scanner app that you could just scan them all in. You'll make a penny or 2 pennies per one, I think. But that's pretty time consuming and it's pretty boring, I guess. But one thing you can do is if you get, let's just say 1,000 code cards, you could probably run an auction and then just sell them, ship them to the person that wants them. And you might not make a ton of money. You might make a few dollars or $10 depending on how much cards are in there. But it's definitely a good way to make some money back. And instead of just throwing them away, you can make a little bit of profit. Because if you think about it, throwing things away, you can't make less than that. Basically impossible to make less money in profit than just throwing something away. And I'm all for reusing things and getting new purpose out of old things. And I'd rather something go to someone that needs it or wants it rather than it going in the trash. So that's about it for this one. Try to think of things that you have a lot of or that's just sitting in a pile somewhere that you don't want to list individually, or it's daunting looking at it. So just try to think of things that you could list like that and this will be another video, but make templates for them so that way as you get more inventory in, you could just reuse that template rather than creating the listing from scratch. Because that's what I do for my auctions and it saves me at least 5 to 10 minutes each time, and that adds up quick. And it removes the friction and the barrier to entry on a auction because there's just less things to set up. So stay tuned. I'll make a video about that. And I hope everything is going well. And I'll see you all in the next video.